Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant. Today we are at the next topic, that is the endgame studies explained. We are at the 50th position of our topic, and today we have got a position based on knight versus bishop. Now we again see knight's dominance over the bishop, but this time the position is open. The black bishop is not blocked. Let's look at the basic ideas in the position. White of course wants to play h7 and h8. But the problem is, if black bishop manages to come to the h8 a1 diagonal, then he will be able to hold the game very easily. This position looks very tough. Knight has 8 moves and it's hard to figure out which one we should calculate first. But here we can easily choose the candidates by using the elimination method. What is elimination method? We look at candidates and we reject them by using simple logic or small calculation. Just for instance, the move knight d3, which looks great at first. Knight attacks the bishop, snatches e1, it allows g3 and h4 squares, and in fact we see to h4 there is knight c5 check, which can be very useful. But what we see after knight d3, black simply has bd4, and we note that the bishop has covered the diagonal, nothing can be done. Knight d3 is eliminated. Similarly, we can have the move knight e2. After knight e2, we see that the squares d4, c3 and g3, these are taken care of. But the black bishop can go to h4, and we see that f6 cannot be guarded by this knight in spite of giving check from d4. So ne2 is rejected. Similarly, ng6 can be instantly rejected because of bd4, and so is nh3 and nh5 because of bd4. So that leaves us with only two candidate moves, that is ne6 and nd5. Again we see nd5 is rejected because of bd4. So what we notice, that the only variation which can lead to some winning idea is ne6. Thus white focuses his whole attention on the move ne6. Very true, this method will be useful only if we know the result. Otherwise, we will have to look at each of the lines very carefully and maybe sometimes differently. We know that the position is winning, hence we will look into the move knight e6. Idea is very simple. The knight wants to guard the d4 square instantly, and we leave black bishop with 3 choices: h4, g3 and e1. And as we know, the authenticity of the study is such where in spite of difficulties, there is a different kind of solution to everything. So, in spite of allowing 3 variations, white manages to handle the bishop in a different way in each one. After bishop e1, we see that bishop is heading to c3. This time knight uses the interference, just knight d4 check. kc4, we see that the bishop's diagonal is blocked and white goes h7. Let's play the moves knight e6, b1 and the simple nd4 check. After kc4, there is just h7 and white wins. There is no way to stop the pawn from queening. Bishop c3 just allows h8. After ne6, the other line is bishop g3. Now the task is to control the e5 square, which the knight again achieves with a check. The knight goes to d4 with a check, and after the move kc4 or ka3, whatever, white has knight f3. The knight is actually controlling all the important squares. The knight wants to guard h4 and the e1 square, so bishop cannot revert back to the diagonal through h4 f6 or e1 c3. Bishop f2 doesn't help because d4 is already guarded, so bf2 h7 bd4 knight d4 white wins. And finally e5 is guarded right now with the knight. So there is no way for the bishop to control the h7 square. So any move like kd5 just allows h7 and the pawn promotes to queen. So the knight here is dominating the squares which are controlled by the bishop. Finally, after ne6, we have got the move bishop h4. Usually we see whenever the bishop is placed 4th square to the knight, it blocks the knight and controls the squares which are towards the bishop's direction. Here, in spite of that, the knight is also guarding those squares. So let's see what happens now. Knight c5 check, king c4, again attacking the knight, and the knight comes to e4. See, this was the point. The bishop is guarding these two squares and these two, but the same is true for the knight also. Knight is snatching away bishop squares on the diagonal, and we see that knight is also controlling the important c3 squares, and knight is also guarding f2 and g3 squares, which would have allowed the bishop to come to d4 or e5. Hence, there is no defense for black now. After be1, h7, bishop c3, knight takes c3, and white wins. Thus, we can say after the move knight e6, the white knight manages to dominate the black bishop on all its important squares. I hope you are finding these lessons useful. Do like, share, and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.